This podcast does not provide medical advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast. I'm Marianne Matzo.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete.
So, please grab something that will be relaxing to you to eat or drink or snuggle with, whatever it is that'll do it for you. And thank you for spending the next hour with Charlie and me. The first half, we're going to have the recipe of the week and a report on funeral assistance from Charlie, our chief scam artist. In the second half, I'm going to talk about death communication. And in our third half, we're going to have some insights from Bill Guggenheim about after-death communication. And Bill Guggenheim, along with his wife Judy, wrote the book Hello from Heaven. So in a bizarre attempt to keep with our theme, such as it is, communication after death, our recipe this week is a sweet and spicy ghost pepper candied bacon from Mike at Chili Peppers Madness. So Charlie, do you know what ghost pepper is?
Well, you put pepper on Casper the Friendly Ghost?
Well, that wouldn't be very nice. Jeez. Ignore
You're right.
him.
We need maybe Space
him.
Ghost? No, not Space Ghost either.
Spice
I guess
Ghost.
not. Well, so I guess in a word, no, I have no idea.
So ghost pepper is the kind of pepper that you put in your mouth, take a bite of, and you say, oh, this isn't bad. And then you take a bigger bite and you say, everybody's just a wimp. This really isn't bad. And then in about a minute, you're crying and laying on the floor and wish somebody would cut your tongue out because it is so hot. So that's its name. It's ghost pepper because it sneaks up on you. So this recipe is a candied bacon recipe. It's sweet and extra spicy, made with ghost pepper chili flakes, sriracha sauce, brown sugar, and pure maple syrup. Beware, it is super addictive, just like Charlie's ongoing reports about scams. So Charles, who's scamming who?
I have no idea, Marianne, but this week I'm going to talk about the Biden administration launched a funeral assistance program that will provide up to $9,000 to cover the burial costs of each American who died of COVID-19. More than 600,000 Americans have died of COVID. So the program is open to families regardless of their income, as long as they show documentation and have not already received similar benefits through another program. FEMA is setting up a dedicated toll-free hotline. Okay, so grab your pencils. 1-844-684-6333. And a call center to ask questions about the program and take applications. So already the FEMA website, on the FEMA website, it's describing this funeral assistance program, and it's alerting people to possible scams. Now the scam part comes in. And there's that word again, scam, fraud alerts. Scammers are reaching out to people, offering to register them for funeral assistance. Now, by the time this goes to air, it's possible FEMA will have started sending out the notifications, but FEMA does not contact anyone prior to them registering for assistance. So no one out of the blue from FEMA is going to call you unless you have registered. Throughout the pandemic, some people started GoFundMe fundraising accounts online, asking strangers to help pay for funerals. Local governments, nonprofits, and churches have been pitching in to help families pay funeral bills in many parts of the country, and many will welcome the help from the federal government. In the early weeks of the pandemic, those who died, especially those in nursing homes, were suspected of dying of COVID, but testing was limited. Many death certificates, therefore, did not mention COVID-19. So, to be reimbursed, many families may need to seek out doctors or coroners to amend death certificates. People depleted their entire savings or put themselves in debt to cover funeral costs. Sadid Dunstan, Executive Director of Elm Corps Youth and Adult Activities in New York City, said, "We should be trying our best to reach the people who need this most to let them know this is available. So, reach out to people, especially those who need this the most." On our website, everyonedies.org, that's dies.org, we have a link to COVID-19 funeral assistance program, which includes information in multiple languages on how to apply and who is eligible. Remember, the government/FEMA does not contact people prior to them registering for assistance. So, please go to everyonedies.org. That's dies.org for a link to this, for the recipes, and additional resources for this program. You can mail us all your secrets at mail@everyonedies.org. And please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. It would be super duper helpful if you would also remember to rate and review this podcast. As a nonprofit organization, we are always thrilled to accept your donations. Please go to our webpage to donate and support our work, www.everyonedies.org. And again, the number 1.
That's really interesting, Charlie. Thank you for that report. So our second half features a little bit of a talk about after-death communications, or ADC. And an ADC, after-death communication, is contact from someone who has died spontaneously and directly by the dead without a medium. So if you go to a medium, like we would go to see Anne, Charlie, that is not an after-death communication because there's a medium. There's somebody in between the person who has died and ourselves. So an after-death communication, though, is when the deceased comes back on their own and visits. And I'll talk about what some of those different kinds of visits are. Charlie, I read a lot on Facebook to see what people's concerns are, so that we write shows about things that people are actually interested in. And there's quite a few groups about the afterlife and near-death experiences and deceased people coming back to visit and to talk. And so I thought this would be a really good topic to talk about. And one of the things that I see that people ask is, why doesn't my loved one come back and see me? All these people on Facebook have had these experiences. Why haven't I had that? I want my child or husband or wife or whomever to come back and talk to me. I need to say something, or I miss them so badly. Well, one thing about after-death communications is that we can't make it happen. We do not control it. It either occurs or it doesn't. And one of the first books that was written that took a kind of data-gathering approach was published in 1995 by Bill and Judy Guggenheim. Their book is called Hello from Heaven, and in it they share 353 stories from people about their ADCs. And these are people, Charlie, from all walks of life, all kinds of different occupations. There's no kind of rhyme or reason like, they particularly come back to grieving parents or whatever. It's all over the map. And what they did with this book is they broke it down into different types of communications that people will get. So I had a chance to actually interview Bill Guggenheim, the author of this book, about the work that he did. And when I talked with him, he said that life is where we learn to live to love, and that many people want to blame God for the death of someone that we love. But we should remember that God does not take people, but rather receives people. Mortality is a given that we don't control, just like birth, and it's one of the things that all living creatures are going to experience. I Our loss and grief after death often includes concern for the person who's died. Are they okay? Are they safe? Are they hurting? Are they, in the case of children or babies, are they being cared for? And our own feeling of the void left in our lives after death is one thing, is our void. And then the concern for the person who has died is another aspect of it. So people who have ADCs, after-death communications, report feelings of peace and healing. They usually receive messages such as, I'm happy now, I love you, I'm pain-free, please forgive me, I'm always with you, we will be together again, you will be fine, it's only goodbye for now, and it's time to move on. Everything will be all right. So in their book, Bill and Judy talk about sort of 12 frequent types of ADCs that people have experienced. So the first one is sensing a presence. And this is so subtle that people often will dismiss it as their imagination and mistake it as a wish, when really their loved one is right there beside them. With this sensing comes a distinct feeling that your loved one is close, even though you can't see or hear them. So it's just that feeling like you're not alone. The second type is hearing a voice. While some people can actually hear an external physical-like voice, others hear what could be called telepathic. It's like there's no vibrational noise or sound, but in their head, they hear what the deceased person is wanting to say to them. And it's even possible to carry on whole conversations in this way, and people have reported these experiences. The third is feeling a touch. Your loved one may touch you, hold you, kiss you. These are ways that your loved one can comfort you and show that they still have their love for you. Smelling a fragrance. You might smell a scent that you associate with your loved ones. It could be a perfume, a cologne, a scented face cream, pipe tobacco. I've talked in the past that when I smell juicy fruit gum, I always think of my father because he always would be chewing the juicy fruit. Another way that they communicate is visual experiences. And you might see your loved one from sort of the range of a mist to an actual solid form. They may come as a partial body to a full body image. Many occur next to or at the foot of the bed, but it can happen anywhere. Loved ones appear to look slightly different. People report that they're in their younger self. And Bill, when I talked with him, said that people come back at what they consider to be their prime. And that got me thinking, I don't know when my prime was. I think I better decide that before I have to decide what my body will look like when I come back from the dead. Some people actually, though, will look the same as when they died, but nobody looks sick in the stories that people tell. Typically, they appear expressing love, and they appear healed and whole. And even though they may have died a disfiguring death, they still look healthy and well.
So how is that, though? If they... Yeah, it just seems, I don't know why, but it seems a bit odd that it's like a Hollywood version of what somebody would look like rather than, why would everyone, all these visits, the person looks good? I mean, it seems
what they're saying is what they see is that person in a healthy prime of their life state. And when I asked Bill about that, he said that the stories he's heard were like, if you're an older person, your prime of your life might be 40 years old, so that they'll look younger. He said that when it's children who've died, that they actually kind of grow into themselves and become older. There was one story in the book where this woman reported that she had a miscarriage, and then she had, I think, a stillbirth, and then like a SIDS death. So like 3 children, or maybe it was just 2 or 3 children died. So she had this after-death communication where, let's say it was 2 children, the baby, the stillbirth and the miscarriage came back as actual children around 3 or 4. And the daughter was the older one. She was the miscarriage. And the woman reported, she says, I could look at them and see, like who they looked like. And the daughter could talk and said, this is my little brother. So what Bill says is he's listened to all of these stories is that children will seem to get older while older people will go back to their prime. And don't ask me why about any of this, because I don't know.
I don't know. I'm having difficulty with with this. To me, it almost seems it's like wishful thinking, that this is someone who has lost someone. Some unconscious, subconscious thing projects the image that they want to see, not consciously, but
I'm going to talk about that at the end after I talk about the different kinds of appearances, because that was also a question that I asked Bill. So I don't know what number that was, visual experiences. The next one is visions. It's possible to see an image of your loved one in a window, in a mirror, or in a picture. They could appear in meditation or when you have some other kind of altered state. It's not uncommon for them to appear suspended in the air in front of you. When they appear for minutes or seconds, they can be seen with the eyes open or closed. So as you're listening to this and you're saying, oh, how the heck does anybody know this? Remember, what Bill and his wife did is they collected stories in the, what did I say, the 60s? No, 70s, rather. And they compiled these stories. So they didn't make them up. All they did was transcribed what people said they saw and looked at them qualitatively, like what are they saying? How frequently do these come? And that's how they came up with these categories of the experiences. And like when they say something like, well, they can appear for minutes or seconds and can be seen with eyes open or closed, it's because when they did the analysis of the stories that people told them, they said, I could, close my eyes and I could still see them, or I opened my eyes and I could still see them. So it's that kind of thing. It's based on people, they back in those days, they put like ads in newspapers and magazines and said, if you've had an experience like this, contact us. And then people would contact them and they would rule out if the person had been drinking or had been using drugs at the time, they ruled those people out. And I think there was another criteria. I think the person had to be healthy themselves or something. So they weeded out people and then only took the stories from the people who met their criteria.
But at the top of this, you said something about religion, and so I'm sorry. Does religion come into this?
Well, so the book is called Hello from Heaven. And one of the first questions I asked Bill in the interview was, how do we know that these communications are from heaven? Like, could they be from someplace else? And so, again, whenever a researcher does research, they're looking through their own lens as they're doing it, too. And, his answer was basically, there's proof of God and proof of an afterlife because these phenomena occur.
And what does that have to do with religion?
Well, in terms of talking about God and that kind of thing. Like, and he even talks about that there is no hell. That's a concept that, religions themselves, and he's not a real big fan of religion itself. He's kind of New Age in terms of his religious. Well, he talks about he is more spiritual than religious. But anyway, I forgot what I was saying.
Oh no, just questioning about religion. Then why
Yeah.
this whole religion thing?
It's. I think it's I think it. It goes back to the whole Jesus rising from the dead, and that there is that possibility of new life or life after death, and life after death. Sitting at the right hand of the Father. So you'd kind of take those concepts, and those seem to be what frames what people see and hear. But many of the people that had written to Bill and Judy did not belong to any religious group, did not have, sort of any kind of strong religious association, and some were had no belief in God at all. So my take after reading the book and talking with Bill is that I don't have any evidence to rule any of this out. And, it's possible it could happen. And I don't know that it does or it doesn't. I don't have an experience where any of these things have ever happened to me. But I'm not going to, at the same time, I'm not going to say that if it's happened to somebody that I don't believe it, because if you say it happened, it happened. I mean, who am I to say you're wrong?
Oh no, I'm not questioning that it happened. It just I don't know. Just at the top, like I said, you started mentioning all this stuff about religion, and I just don't see a connection with religion. So, okay.
So the last type is twilight experiences, and these occur in an alpha state when you're falling asleep, when you're just waking up, if you're praying or you're meditating. And in the stories that people told, it seems that it's easier for the dead to connect with us at times when our brain is sort of not fully engaged, just sort of like in those pre-sleep or post-sleep states. Now, after-death communications can be experienced while people are asleep. These are dreamlike states that are different from regular dreams. These sleep states seem more real than other dreams, and sometimes more real than life. These ADCs are more colorful and intense. It's not uncommon to have a two-way conversation with your loved one in this dream, and the experiences are fluid. They move, but they make sense, as opposed to a usual abstract or fragmented type of dream. And like I have dreams where my sisters who are deceased come back and we're doing stuff, or my mom has come back. Occasionally my dad will come back, but it's not all that often, and it's not all necessarily that memorable, so I don't think it's an after-death experience. I think it's just a, whatever part of my brain that they live in, comes out while I'm asleep and we go do stuff. So there's out-of-body ADCs, and it's reported that it is possible for us to leave our body to visit a loved one. You might be meeting by the ocean or a field of beautiful flowers. The scenery appears more intense, vivid, and real than in this life. Usually, the place where you go is filled with beauty and love and things that tend to glow with light. A lot of these stories had real intense light and glowing and an incredible intensity of color that they were seeing. And most of the people said, I can't even describe it. I don't have the words to even describe it. And An out-of-body experience can be triggered by meditation or other altered states. People who practice astral projection are said to have visited many of these places that people in the book have described. Now, you can also get a telephone call, and these after-death communications can happen when you're awake or asleep. The phone rings, you answer it, and your loved one's on the other end talking to you. And they may ask how you doing, just like they used to. And they might be calling to give you a message, and the voice could be sounding like it's very near or it's very far away. Sometimes the connection isn't all that good, and people have been known to say, let me call you back because this connection isn't good. But of course, they can't get them back on the phone because it doesn't quite work that way.
So are the calls ever collect or just like person to person?
Apparently not.
Mm-hmm.
And they even warn about, don't make mistakes of telling them that it's a bad connection and you call them back. It's like they even warn you, don't do that. Just deal with the bad connection. Physical phenomena, when this occurs, lights will flicker, electrical stuff can turn on and off, pictures can fall over, fall off the wall, or let's say a clock that's been broken for many years starts to chime. You can take these signs that your loved one is stopping by to say, hey, I'm here. Symbolic after-death communications, these are experienced as signs, rainbows, butterflies, hummingbirds, other birds, certain animals and flowers that in some way represent the deceased person or as a reminder of a happy memory associated with them. These usually appear to give us hope, as if some unseen someone is saying, hey, I'm still here. And, I was putting together this script, and I went out in the garden, and I had bought some Edelweiss to plant. So I live on
from the Sound of Music.
Yeah, don't give away my story. So I live like on a rock hill, so I have to make planting areas in order to plant anything. It's a very bizarre.
So the hills
existence.
Are alive, or yeah.
They're alive with rocks and little pockets that I put plants in. So I made this little pocket bed for the Edelweiss, and I put the Edelweiss in there. Whenever I work out in the garden, I always have Amazon Music playing and the Broadway show tunes so that I have something to sing along with. So I'm planting the Edelweiss and what comes on the radio. You're not going to bite?
Something from West Side Story?
So there is Julie Andrews singing Edelweiss as I'm planting Edelweiss. Now.
Christopher...
he just died.
Yeah, no, he sang it. She didn't sing it.
No, she sang it on the radio.
Oh, I see. Oh.
So.
Yeah.
Was that an after-death communication from someone?
Well, no, because she's still alive, but Plummer is dead, so...
Well, no, it's not after-death communication with actors who you don't know, but let's say, I'm going to make this up. Let's say your dad wore Edelweiss in his boutonniere when you got married, Oh,
I see.
That would be, that would be a connection. But my dad didn't because he was already died, but I don't know what the connection is other than it was a little bit weird. So, Guggenheim takes these visits as proof that there is life after death. It also could be that our minds give us what we need to soothe our pain. And this was what I'd asked him, is how do we know that it's not our brain saying you need to be able to see this person or hear this person to give you comfort. You need to hear them say that they're okay. A lot of the messages that people come back with are, I'm fine, I'm being taken care of. Some of them were Mom, you've got to stop breathing like this because you're holding me here and I want to go. So I need you to kind of, as though we can control that. But anyway,
Right.
that's some of the messages. Many people ask for specific details about life after death, and that hope that people who have a near-death experience, those people who died and then came back, can tell us the details. Guggenheim says that, those near-death experiences are very, very different from after-death communication, and that his feeling or thought is that after-death communication is the stronger indicator that there is, in fact, life after death. All people can do is really share what they've experienced, and we get to decide what, if any, of this information is relevant to our worldview. We're not saying to anybody, any of our listeners, hey, you got to believe in this thing called after-death communication. But there are many, many people who do and have experienced this and take great comfort in what happens in those after-death communications. And so, we don't, like I said to you when you asked before, we don't have any proof one way or the other. The ADC serves to provide an ongoing connection to the deceased and suggests to those who are living that death is not final. There have been known to, people who've had these experiences have decreased their fear of dying for those that are left behind. It's not unusual for those who've experienced an after-death communication to develop an increased interest in spirituality, as well as exploration of existential issues about God and the universe. Regardless of the source of these experiences, the positive impact remains the same. Most people describe them as healing and affirming. There's positive benefits in just being able to share this information with others. These communications serve as a source of comfort, consolation, strength, and can also play a large role in reducing the pain of the grief. So the book is called Hello from Heaven, and in our third half, we're going to actually get to listen to some of the interview with Bill Guggenheim. So, welcome to our third half, where we have the distinct pleasure of sharing with you an interview with Bill Guggenheim. I met with Bill a couple weeks ago, and we talked for well over an hour about his book, Hello from Heaven. You can find that on Amazon and probably any place where books are sold, since it's not a new book. It's been around for a while, but it is really a definitive text of people's reports of their after-death communications in their own words. So, let me introduce you to Bill Guggenheim.
Well, today we have a real treat. We have an author with us today, Bill Guggenheim, who wrote Hello from Heaven. And Hello from Heaven is not a recent book, but it is still widely popular. And what it brings to us is a conversation about after-death communication, or ADC, after-death communication. So, Bill, welcome to the show.
Well, it's my pleasure to be your guest.
Thank you. So, for the listeners who don't know, can you tell us what after-death communication is all about?
Yes, we call them after-death communication experiences. So we call them ADC experiences, or ADCs. And that's really a definition that we use, is that an ADC, or an after-death communication experience, is a spiritual experience that occurs when a person is contacted directly and spontaneously by a family member or a friend of theirs who has died.
Has this research and this work, how do you think it's affected your life?
Totally, it transformed me. But I'm about ready to release my second book, which is called Stories from Heaven. And this goes back to 1974 when I received a whole series of writings, mostly short stories, but also some other writings. And these will be in that book. And this was a prelude. I didn't believe in anything when I was younger. I was an agnostic. I was a materialist. And I compared people to flashlight batteries. I used to say, when the juice runs out of their body, just throw the body away. When you're dead, you're dead. And that's where I was at that point. And then I received all these channeled writings and also messages from people who had died for people who were living. And so I was functioning as a medium, which I didn't like at all. Didn't want that responsibility. And then I met different people and had different experiences with teachers who I studied with. And I kept growing from 1974 to 1988, which was 14 years, which transformed me and prepared me to do Hello from Heaven. And that was a big transition right there, a big change from being interested in this. Because, as I said before, I believe ADCs are literally proof for life after death. And I think if we came to accept that and believe that and knew that, it would make us life very, very different than the way it is now.
How do you think it would be different?
I think people would be much kinder to each other, accepting, loving, and it just change morality a great deal in terms of warfare, and people would be less materialistic. It's not just about he who dies with the most toys wins, which is sort of the American way to a large extent.
Right.
And it's not about my religion or my denomination or my minister or whatever is the right one and all the others are wrong. We would just see that that every religion and every denomination and every sect just has a piece of the truth. And they're all trying to express the same thing, but in different ways. I'm being very general.
Right. Do you yourself fear death?
Just like a near-death, the most common experience of a near-death experiencer, somebody who left their body and went to the light and back. The number one after effect is they no longer have their fear of death. And that same thing happened to me in those 14 years of what my experiences. I no longer had a fear of death, which enables me to speak to people much more easily who are dying. I'm not, I'm not wailing and gnashing my teeth about it.
Right. Well, I think that's we started our educational thing called Everyone Dies, and some people get very bothered by that and will write me notes about, I love your podcast. I hate the name of your, but I hate its name. And it's
people don't want people don't want to discuss death in our culture.
Right.
They see it as an ending, as a loss, as something black and horrible to be avoided. It's painful. Grief is painful, yes, but it's to be reminded that everyone dies. But does that mean that it's like a door which closes and that's the end? There's nothing more. If you feel there's something more, if there is a heaven, I believe that when I make my transition, when I die, I'll have a reunion with my father and my mother, and a daughter who died, and other people who I've known. So I'm going towards something, not just away from something. I'm not just losing something. I'm gaining something.
When my sister died, somebody sent me a card, and I'm sure you've read the poem about the ship leaves the shore, and as I'm standing there, of course, I'm saying goodbye to the ship, and on a far shore, somebody says, "Oh, here comes a ship. Welcome, 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 welcome. Yes. Here they come." Yes. Yes, and that brought me such great comfort, Bill, when she died. It was like this image of, yes, she's going, but she's going to a place where people are welcoming her.
See, I don't mean this in any religious way or in any negative way, despite the fact that people will say, yes, I'm a Christian, or I'm a Jew, I'm a this, I'm a that, and I believe it in the Bible. When it comes to death, literally raw, plain death, I think very few people really believe that there is an afterlife. That comes as well, that their loved one is going someplace very specific, and that they'll have a reunion. That's a big question. Will I be with that person again? Will I see that person again? Will I be with my child who was killed, or my husband, or my wife, or my parents, or whoever it is? Will we be reunited again? That's the part that's missing. That's the part that's not talked about.
Well, what about the concept of hell, though? What is there hell?
There's hell all around you, right where you live. Every war is hell. Every place that people have inadequate food, who don't have a home, or are homeless, living in the streets, don't have medical care, who don't have drinking water. In Africa, they have to go miles and carry water, but in pots, to just have drinking water. And in prisons is hell. It's all around us. You don't have to go very far to see hell. It's how people treat each other. I just watched a movie last night, West Side Story, and I saw how it portrayed how the Puerto Ricans and the white New Yorkers interacted initially in New York City, and how they had a turf war between these teenagers. So that's a hell. And anything which is not based upon love is hell. How's that?
So I think, though, that part of the fear comes, at least I've seen in working with people who are at the end of life, is that they've done, in their words, quote unquote, bad things, and they're afraid that they're going to hell. And that's their fear.
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross used to say people die in character. So some people are holding on by their fingernails to living, to the breathing, to still being here, because they were, say, raised Catholic and they did some things that weren't nice. And they're so afraid now they'll be punished forever, for eternity, in some kind of demonic hell. First of all, if it's a God, is it a loving God? Would a loving God condemn anybody for eternity to a hell of the worst kind? That's a big question. You see,
well,
these are taught in churches. These are church beliefs, but those are man-made beliefs as well.
I grew up Catholic, so I know all about guilt and hell.
If you don't stay a virgin, if you're not a virgin when you get married, if you are not a nice girl, this will happen, that will happen, all kinds of things. It's drummed into you as a Catholic. I'm not putting down the Catholic Church. I'm saying in different ways other churches do the same thing. Okay?
Well, even the whole idea of, there was no death until Adam took a bite of the apple, and God then said, and sort of, now you're going to be mortal. As a result, it was a punishment. That was a punishment, and that's what it says in the Bible. It's a punishment. And so can we be surprised when people feel that we all want to avoid punishment, don't we?
Well, there's an old saying, in Adam's fall, we sinned all. When he had his fall, all of us sinned, and we are the descendants of Adam. But that to me is man-made religion. Personally, I attended a Unity church, UNITY, Unity, and they're very positive, and they don't talk about any of this stuff, any negativity, nothing about a hell. No.
Well, and that's why, like I listen to these different things, and I think, well, of course you're going to be afraid. Or I can remember as a little girl, I went to Catholic school, and the nun, I had to be, Bill, first, second grade, and the nun teaching religions was talking about hell, and she said there's a little clock in hell, and it ticks, and it says, once you get in, you never get out. Once you get in, you never get out. And she says you spend eternity listening to that. That scared the crap out of me.
Of course it does.
I was just a little kid.
You and every other boy, or girl in a class like that. But that, and I don't feel comfortable. I'm not qualified to discuss religion, but from what I've heard and read and whatnot, this is just man controlling man. And that's what it's based upon. There are people.
Yeah, I always think it's about money.
Money.
Money is power, and if you keep control of people within whatever church and have them, required to give a certain amount of money or whatever, it's like being able to perpetuate the institution.
Well, that's just a way to look at it. I'm not saying you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know. But it's not my religion.
No,
first of all,
it's not mine anymore either.
Let me say I consider myself spiritual, but not religious. I don't belong to a religion, but I am spiritual. That is a big difference. I cannot define it for you, but you'll find it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And for me, it's one in between was Unitarian Church. I attended that a short while. They're very intellectual. They analyze everything. There's a cute little thing for Unitarians. This is a little joke, okay? It's when somebody dies, they follow a roadway till they come to a fork. And the fork says, this way to heaven. You turn to the left or right, whichever. One arrow points this way to heaven. The other points to this way to a discussion group about heaven. That's a Unitarian.
Oh, actually, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, I'm going to thank you so much for talking with me and for sharing your insights, and to our listeners, thank them for spending time with us during this show. Everyone Dies. You can read our blogs and listen to our other podcasts at everyonedies.org. That's EBERY, the number 1 dies.org. Thank you to our producer, Jeannie White, and our CEO, Lillian Caldwell. We produce a new show every Wednesday to answer questions related to life-threatening illness, dying, and death. Remember, you can listen to Passionate World Talk Radio on Spreaker and our shows wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have a topic that you'd like to discuss on our show, please email me, Marianne at everyonedies.org. That is MARIANNE at everyonedies.org, EBERY, the number 1 dies.org. I hope that you live your best life every day. And remember, every day is a gift. Thank you for listening. Are you still there, Bill?
Yes, I am. Anyway, if you want to write down those two, the title of the 2 books I recommend, one is Journey, Journey, Journey of Souls, Souls, and Destiny, Destiny, of Souls, by Michael.
Are those Michael Newton?
Michael Newton, PhD. They're both available at Amazon. Mm-hmm.
Now, is yours going to be when is your? I can put in the blog information about your second book, Stories from Heaven. Do you have,
not yet. Not yet.
No,
it's not. Okay. It's not available yet. I'm not trying to publicize it before it's out. No, I just mentioned it to you.
Well, that was on the radio show, so just so you know.
Oh, well, they can know. I don't think I said that. I don't think I even said the title, but the title is Stories from Heaven.
Yeah, you did say the title actually because I wrote it down. I'm one of those academics who take notes.
Okay, that's fine.
So,
that's good. I'm not opposed to academics.
Stop myself.
It's just that so many academics get it's a mind thing, not a heart thing.
Yes.
And so you wind up how many angels are on the head of a pin kind of stuff.
Right.
And,
no, I totally get that whole thing, and I've been told many times that you don't act like a professor.
Right.
And I don't know if that's a compliment.
Anybody who, let me put it this way: anybody who does hospice work and stays at it, anybody who can do it and not just do it for a paycheck, I don't think they can do that. But who really feels that that's their calling, to me, that's one of the highest levels of consciousness there is on earth. Those are people who are truly nurturing and loving and caring and providing everything for that person's last days, months, weeks, or days. Yes. So I admire hospice very much. I went through training at 2 different hospices, although I never worked at being a hospice volunteer. But I went through the training, 10-week training at both of them, and it helped. I mean, I did all these things for my book.
Yeah.
I did all these before.
You know, I would love, Bill, if you. I know that I'm sure you're very busy, but if you could take a look at our website and maybe listen to a podcast or 2. The whole point of that is, I guess, a different take on what it is that you do, in that helping, maybe from an educational point of view, helping people get information so that they can be less afraid and more in control of their life and end of life. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I really don't feel comfortable. I'm kind of an authority figure on after-death communication, but I'm not in any other field. And I don't like to overstep my bounds and and shoot my mouth off. It's no more valuable than anybody else's. And this is something I feel.
Even if, I mean, I've had so many people who are, experts or whatever in another area, but they come across somebody who's like, I'm really got this diagnosis or something. You can even refer people to the podcast, because we've been doing it over a year, so there's probably at least 60 podcasts up by now on all different subjects and all different diseases and all different, there's one on death of pets. I mean, so what people will do is say, I'm sorry your dog died. There's this podcast you might like listening to.
Yeah. By the way, as far as pet loss, are you aware of petloss.com and the Rainbow Bridge?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's something I refer people to Rainbow Bridge.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so now you have another source also. The other thing I don't know if it's appropriate to ask you, if we wrote a children's book, just recently came out, called Everyone Dies.
I have it.
Did I tell you about it?
No, I saw it and I bought it. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Cool.
Yes.
What'd you think?
Well, to be honest, Everyone Dies is a good statement, but I mean, I think that's kind of known. The question is, what happens next?
Well, see, the thing with the children's book was, I don't know, let me put it this way. We assume that people know how to tell children about death, but in fact, they talk about it all years. Working on
I'm missing. I missed something's wrong. I can't understand you. I'm missing you.
What I'm saying is that in my experience working in hospice and in palliative care and at the cancer center, people would say, I don't know what to say to my children. I don't know how to explain it to them.
Right.
So I knew that people didn't know how to explain it. And that's why I wanted to write that book was here's how you explain it to children. We deliberately didn't go past why do people die. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so because it's for younger kids, it's a simple way for them to understand here's what happens. It's factual. You know, they didn't go to sleep and never wake up. All those things that people say to children that end up scaring the bejesus out of them, you know. So we didn't I don't know if there'll be a next book about, and then after they die, you know, here's what happens. But we deliberately didn't go there. You see?
Yes, I know.
So, because, we're at the process. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Because I think the children will say, okay, everybody dies. Then what happens then? Is that the end?
Well, but see, then I think, and I don't know, and you can tell me what you think, is that when they say to their parent or whoever's reading them the book, well, so then what happens? Then there's your discussion. So what do you think happens? You know? Or
yes, you're very right. They would ask.
Depending on your religion or the family values. I mean, who am I to say, here's what you say after that, right?
Well, there's a way, believe it or not, there is a way to write it without being religious about it.
And what is that?
In other words, you just don't use the standard. I can't really describe it because I haven't tried to write the book, but I would say that you'll be reunited, or you'll have a reunion with your other relatives and friends who have died, and you don't have to call it heaven. We just call it the afterlife. In the afterlife, that word is not used by religions.
Mm-hmm.
See, so heaven is used by heaven is Jewish and Christian, as far as I know, and then they have different names in the Muslim religion, and Buddhism and whatever they have in China. I don't know, and on and on and on, all these different names. But if you just say in the afterlife, you can then. It really comes from reading a lot of books about near-death experiences and getting a feeling for that. I'm not saying it's easy.
We should think. Oh no, but maybe we should think about that. We should both put it in our brains and say, how would you explain it? Because here's my long-term goal. I want a society of people not afraid of their entire lifespan. You know, it's like you want to be young forever. You don't want to get old and, quote unquote dependent, and you sure as hell don't want to die. So how can we make people embrace you can't make people do anything, but how do you help people learn about the entire lifespan and embrace each part of that you're living?
That's you're asking the all-time questions, the biggest questions of all, and you can ask for guidance. You pray about it yourself. Pray for inspiration.
Well, and that's and the opportunities I have to talk with so many different people and working, as a nurse practitioner for 40-some years and, working in hospice and in cancer care. It's like those have been my teachers. And I just know that we can do better. And the fear that's related, sort of like, well, if we don't talk about it, then it doesn't exist, and I don't, and then I won't ever die. It's like you can not talk about it, but it still exists, and you are going to die.
When people see an animal that's dead, they know there's a difference between a live animal and a dead animal. So let's make it a cat or a dog, and they're hit by a car, and now they're not moving anymore. They're not breathing. They're not alive. What happened?
What happened? They got very, very hurt, and they're dead.
Right, and now, was that it? Is that the end of their existence? See, you.
Well, then you get into the belief realm, don't you?
Well, if you read enough books on NDEs, you'll see the people who comment on them use their beliefs, but the people who have the experience it with their own religious background. Yes. So if a Catholic will experience it differently than a Protestant, and a Christian will experience it different than a Jew, and somebody who's Muslim, et cetera, et cetera. But you just have, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross worked with this a lot. That's all I can tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And I attended 2 5-day workshops with her. Mm-hmm. And they're not recent; they're old. One was 1977, the other was 1982. Right. That's a long time ago.
Well, I graduated from nursing school in '78, so it was a long time ago, wasn't it? So,
anyway, I think it comes through to some degree in Hello from Heaven. Because it doesn't contain. Some people thank God. Yes, God is mentioned. I think angels or other things are mentioned in Hello from Heaven. I frankly don't remember all the experiences in the book anymore. I haven't reread it, so to speak. But
well, it's a really good book. You should read it.
Yeah, right. I've been working on my current book, and that has 54. My current book has 54 spiritual short stories in it that came through me, not from me.
Wow.
And I'm not saying they're great or anything. I'm just saying that's what I have. And right. Many of them contain an out-of-body experience, and others contain an after-death communication experience. Wow. Within the story, it's not the center of it, but it's just part of the story. I'll give you a title. This is not a book like we're talking about. This is just a little story that helps people who are bereaved and who are things like that. It's called Hope for the Flowers. Hope for the Flowers. And it's by Trina, Trina, Paulus, Paulus, Trina Paulus. It's on Amazon in both hardcover and paperback. There's something about this book that helps people who are bereaved. And it's about butterflies.
I'll check that out.
It's a very nice book. It's a great gift book.
Yeah, I'm hoping that people will use Everyone Dies as one of like a gift book too. In that, if a pet dies, whatever. Whomever, and they're trying to figure out how to talk about it. That would be used, because I started talking that way with my girls when they were very young, and they're now 23 and 24, and I'll say, so and so is sick, and they'll say, are they very, very sick? Because that's how we talk about it. Even in their 20s, they're still using the same language.
What would you repeat that? What language? What do they ask?
They'll say, "Are they very, very sick?"
I
say
see.
somebody is sick.
The
language of
like being terminally ill. Are they terminally ill?
Yes. So they don't say, "Are they dying?" They say, "Are they very, very sick? Are they very, very hurt?" Because they would say to me, like if I'd say, "Oh God, I'll feel good," and they'd say, "Are you very, very sick?" And I'd say, "No, I'm not very, very sick. I'm just sick."
Right.
And that's it's so easy for children to get that.
Yeah.
And then to communicate with others in that way.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for
I enjoyed
talking with
getting
me.
to know you and speaking with you, Marianne. So
thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed our chat, and I hope we get to stay in touch with each other.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank
bye-bye
you, sir. Have a good day. Okay, bye-bye.
Right. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for future episodes of Everyone Dies. This is Charlie Navarrete.
And I'm Marianne Matzo. And remember, every day is a gift. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.